Hi everybody. So I wanted to talk to you today about one of the most common questions that I see asked, and it's, do I need multiple core sets? Everybody asks this about Legion, and as the game is getting closer to launch, I wanted to address it. I haven't done a whole lot of Legion coverage yet. I've done more terrain coverage than actual game footage, but as it ramps up and gets closer, I'm going to be doing a lot more Legion coverage. So I figured I'd start off by helping you get started. If you're thinking about getting into Legion, the short answer is no, one core set is fine. But the long answer is that you actually may want more than one. And so I'm going to talk about that. We're going to look at a couple of different things. We're going to look at the costs of the core set, what comes in it. We're going to look at the cost of the expansions. And then we're going to compare them, the value from one to the other. We're also going to talk about, what is gained and lost versus buying expansions or versus buying multiple core sets. We're going to look at, what is required to play the game, and does the core set actually fulfill all the requirements? Like, is a core set just enough for you to play? And the short answer to that is no, it's not. It's enough for you to play like a practice game, like just about every Fantasy Flight core set is enough for you to play a practice, like a small version of a game, but not a full game. A full game for this is about 800 points, and you can come in a little bit less with an initiative bid, but this core set is only going to get you to about 400 or so. So let's look at the costs of everything, because ideally you're going to want, most people are going to want at least one core set, maybe multiples, and also expansions. And since all the stuff that comes in the core set also has had expansions revealed, we're going to take a look at the costs for all of those. So the core set by itself is $89.95 MSRP. Now, granted, you may be able to find all of this stuff a little bit cheaper, but for now we're going with MSRP because that's the standard. Now, we also have things that come in the core set, right? Our dice pack and our movement tools, $14.95 each. Okay, and those you may or may not want. Like, I don't think you will need another movement tool and range ruler pack, but those are always nice to have. I do think you will absolutely need more dice. Out of the testing and playing that I've have been trying to figure out the game and stuff, out of my games that I've played around with, you need a lot of dice. There's ways to roll tons of dice in this game, and I think extra dice would be good. I could see maybe getting 2 extra dice packs. So yeah, you may want a lot of dice. And then, in all of our other expansions are $24.95 each. Now, I'm only talking about core set expansions, so I'm not talking about the Snowspeeder or the ATST yet, because those aren't really related to the core set. I wanted to keep this video just about core set contents. And also our Rebel versions are also $24.95 each. So I did a couple of calculations here, and basically, if you wanted to buy everything that comes in the core set. Now, granted, the core set also comes with like the rules and your tokens and all of the other, basic stuff you need to get started with the game. But if you wanted to buy all of the plastic, basically everything that's available as separately purchased, your dice pack, your movement and range tool, your two, because of course that's going to come with 2 Stormtrooper units, 2 Rebel Trooper units, an ATRT, and a speeder bike unit. It's going to come with dice, and it's going to come with a movement and range tool. So if you were to buy all of that, you're looking at $179.60 at MSRP. And so, that's almost that's almost the price of 2 core sets. So, you could do that in, you're looking at like a 30-cent difference. So you could actually buy 2 core sets. Then you'd have double the stuff, and also an extra version of Vader and Luke to paint, right? Or play around with, or if you're not sure on your painting skills. So that's actually another advantage of potentially getting another core set, is that you'll have, a couple extra, because you're not really you can't use 2 Vaders and 2 Lukes. So part of it is going to be wasteful. But as far as the cost, basically all of the individual expansions are priced at about double their actual value when compared to the core set. So it seems to me like the only reason you would want to get these expansions is for the upgrade cards that they may be coming with. Now, we don't know exactly what upgrades they're coming with, but if you have played any FFG game in the past, you know that expansions tend to come with some exclusive upgrade cards. Now, I will say that this game has mirrored, in some ways, their latest miniatures game before this, which was Rune Wars. And I did play Rune Wars. And Rune Wars started a different trend where some of the expansions did not come with exclusive upgrades. As a matter of fact, they had shared upgrades. Or, I bought like a basic Corset infantry spearman. It's one of the units that came in the Corset. But although it was a later expansion, came out a little bit later. It didn't have a single exclusive in it. Everything that was there I had already had. Come to find out, it was like one of these shared exclusives where it was available in something else, but they wanted to make a lot of the exclusives available in multiple places. So if that is the case, then you really won't need to get many of these expansions. So I'll tell you right now, my plan is to get 2 Corsets and then maybe supplement whatever else I need with expansions. So like one of each expansion, I'll probably start off with, and then if I have room, because you can only have. So let's look at what the limits are and what you need to play. Right, you need 800 points. A Corset is going to get you about halfway there. It's going to get you about 400 points, and now 2 Corsets won't get you fully to 800 points though, because a portion of that is going to be Luke and Vader, and you can't double up on them. So 2 Corsets plus some expansions will easily get you to 800 points. But, and that's figuring that you're going to use some upgrades. But you also have limits of how many, units that you can have of a specific type, and, how many units you must have of certain types. So, for example, we have core units, which are your basic infantry. For the Imperial side, that's your stormtroopers. And for your Rebel side, that's your Rebel troopers. Now, you have to have at least 3 core units in your build. You also have to have at least 1 commander. Well, of course, we've got that covered. We've got Luke and Vader. We've got only 1 commander for each faction. You can actually have up to 2 commanders, but so that tells us they are going to make more commanders. But you need at least 3 core units. So already the Corset doesn't give you enough. So you're going to need at least 1 expansion, or if you don't go with 2 Corsets. But on top of that, you can have up to 3 support units. So the Rebels could have at maximum 3 ATRTs. You wouldn't want a 4th ATRT unless you just were going to make up your own rules. If you want to just do that and house rule it, you can do that. Nothing's stopping you from doing that. Or maybe you just want them because of the model. Now, I don't think the ATRT is one of those that you'll really necessarily want to collect the models for, but the speeder bike I could see. The speeder bike is a lot more iconic, so I could see you, and that speeder bike is the Imperial's version of the support. So I can see you potentially wanting multiple, more than 3 speeder bike units. And when I say units, each speeder bike has 2 in the unit. So in theory, you could have 6 speeder bikes on the board. But as it stands right now, you can only have 3 support units for an army in an 800-point battle. Granted, you can have smaller battles, so if you just have 1 Corset and you want to do like a small battle, then go for it. That's what the Corset's about. It's kind of like a trial in a way. It's like a cheaper buy-in trial, because like to buy into this game is going to put you somewhere around $400 or $500. Maybe a little bit less than that, and hopefully you get some deals and you don't have to necessarily do it all at once. But there are a lot of if you wanted to fully max out, it's almost $500 off of everything that's going to be coming out on launch day, or everything that we know right now that's coming out on launch day. It's almost $500 if you wanted to get like the maximum legal limit of everything. Granted, I don't think all of us are going to necessarily do that right away. I have $500 that I can just drop at the drop of a hat. So I'm more along the lines of, all right, let's get like maybe 1 of everything, maybe 2 of some things, and then, little by little, all right, let's add one of these, let's add one of those. Plus, having that much all up front kind of stresses me out a little bit, because I want to paint everything, and I can't, I can't have, 300 miniatures staring me in the face, and then adequately take my time with each one, because what I'll end up doing is I'll end up doing a rush job because I want to get done, and I'll want to have everything painted before I play, and I want to just play. I want to dive right into this game, right? So, yeah. So that's let's see what's the next thing. Let's talk about the troopers. So I want to talk about expansions, because the cheapest way to do this would just be to buy 3 Corsets. You'd be maxed on everything, right? You can have a maximum of 6 core, And since the Corset comes with 2 core for each army, you'd be maxed out on 6. You'd have 3 of each support, because the Corset comes with 1 of each support. You'd be maxed out on that. And that'd be less than $300. That'd be like $270 if you bought 3 Corsets. But then again, why buy expansions if Corsets is the cheapest way to go? And the answer to that is upgrades. So for example, like we get our little preview here of like, oh, there's some upgrades, there's some things we may not have seen before. There's a card that's face down, right? And this is kind of the big unknown, and this is why I can't tell you definitively what is mathematically the absolute best and most efficient way, because we don't know what the real advantage to buying the Rebel Troopers or any of these individual expansions are, because we don't know every single card. Now, I will say that from what I've seen, the biggest upgrades are the ones that actually add miniatures. Like the miniatures that you are seeing here, like your Rebel Troopers start out with only four miniatures in the unit, and then there's upgrades that can add a miniature. Now, all these miniatures also come in the core set, so it's not like you're getting, exclusive miniatures in the Rebel Troopers expansion. I think some of them have different sculpts, but it's still the same basic miniature. So I don't think you're getting any of like the best upgrades in these. I think maybe you're getting like smaller, less significant upgrades. And if that ends up being the case, that's kind of like, then I don't think, you'll really need to just buy, like some people think you need to go with only 1 core set and then all expansions. And that's going to be so much more expensive to do that. Or you'd be paying double, basically. And the only reason you'd be doing that is for an upgrade that you may or may not use. And so I think, from people who are like proxying games and from the games that have been played based on what we know now, it seems like, you don't have to go that upgrade heavy to be effective. And you do, and so many missions are objective based, and you're going to want, more troops on the ground. So the adding miniatures or going with like a bare bones unit and to be able to max out on, maybe like to run all 6 core, for example, can be a very effective way to go. So I'm not putting too much stock in the idea that you need to get all Rebel Trooper upgrades or Stormtrooper upgrade expansions, rather, just for upgrades, because again, we don't know. But my guess is that none of these upgrades are going to be like the holy grail of upgrades. But I could be wrong. But that's primarily based on Rune Wars and how they did that. And there weren't really exclusives in Rune Wars. And this does look like it's following Rune Wars' distribution method, in that, you have to assemble the miniatures, paint the miniatures. There's, you have your multiple factions in the same box. I expect a lot of people are going to split. Which actually brings me to my next point. Let's talk about splitting factions. I think that's a great way to keep the cost down. If you and a friend each want to play this game, you each buy 1 core set. Let's say you want to play Imperial, your friend wants to play Rebel. Just split the factions. And so you each buy a core set. You give him all your Imperial stuff. He gives you all his Rebel stuff, or her. And you guys are done. And now you have 2 core sets worth of stuff, which is a great starting point. Now you're like maybe 1 or 2 expansions away from having a very flushed out, full 800 point list for like less than $150. So, now you are rocking and rolling. And I think that's really the best budget way to do it if you can. But the problem with that is not everybody is going to find somebody who A, wants to split a core set with them, and B, matches up perfectly with the faction that they want to play. So you may not always be able to do that, but that's definitely a great way to go. I plan on playing both factions, so I don't have the luxury of splitting that, because I've got to have everything. That's how I run. I like them both. I can't just stick to one. But I'll say this. The balanced approach that I'm planning on doing is going to be 2 core sets and 1 of each launch expansion. This will actually comes out to $279.70. Now that's not including the heavy units. If you include the Snowspeeder and ATST, that's going to make it $359.60, which is very expensive. But like I said, maxing out would be closer to $500. So I'm starting out a little bit cheaper. I think 2 Corsets is probably the optimal way to get started. That's usually what I do in almost every game. Not only are you getting, a backup movement tool in case your movement tool breaks or whatever, or any of the, the critical cards like damage decks and things like that are in all the other games. It's nice to have a spare one of those. So of all the core game components, it's nice to have a spare in case something gets lost. It's also, you're getting, if you're going to play both factions, you're getting your money's worth, absolutely. But you're also getting another dice pack, and this game uses a lot of dice. You're going to want, a lot of dice. So, and it's not just about all those individual things, but I just think it's going to be great to have 2 Corsets and then one of each other expansion. Now, I won't be completely maxed if I do that. If you go with 2 Corsets, you're going to have 4 core units per faction, and then one of each expansion will give you 5. Now, that still gives you room for another core unit, so if you decide, this expansion actually has the best upgrade, then get another one of those. And, if not, maybe you just hold steady right there. You don't necessarily have to max out on core. I'm pretty sure these won't be the last core units we ever see, so maybe you won't even need, imagine an X-Wing if you maxed out on TIE fighters right away, and all right, and then all of a sudden something else comes out. How many times are you really going to run that many TIE fighters? So I am suggesting the balanced approach of doing, 279.70 for 2 cores and then one of everything else out of the core set. If you max out on the core wave, if you go 2 cores and one of everything else, but 2 of each of the Rebel and Stormtrooper things to give yourself a full 6 core, that's going to bring it up to 329.60, and that's before you add on Snow Speeders and the ATSTs and however many of those you want. I'm starting out with only one of each of those, but I'm not really going to talk about those too much. This is just about the core set. So I am also putting an article up on this on Crabbok.com that is going to have, all of this kind of written out. So if you want to just reference it or whatever, but I just thought I'd share this with you. This is my basic opinion on how many core sets you need. I generally would go with 2. If you're only going to play one faction, then in split with a buddy, then 1 is fine. Or if you're just on the fence and you're not sure if you're going to like the game, then just start with 1. All of those are fine. But for most folks, I would suggest 2 cores and then get expansions based on that. And this is all subject to change, because if they drop a bomb on us and say, oh, by the way, Death Trooper training gives you 6 red dice to every unit you put this on, and it's only available in this expansion, well then crap, I guess you have to get a whole bunch of those. But time will tell on that. As of what we know right now, I'm recommending 2 core sets if you're planning on getting into Legion, and then fill out the rest based on expansions. So that's it, guys. Make sure you subscribe and click the little bell for alerts. We still have a giveaway going on right now, and there's still a painting competition on Crabbok.com as well. You can win a Legion core set, so you may only need to buy 1 core set. But yes, so that's going on right now. Make sure you, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment and let me know what you think. How many core sets do you think? Do you disagree with my logic? I would love to have a discussion with you on it. Because I might be wrong. I might have overlooked something critical, and I'm only human. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate all the feedback that you guys have been giving me, all the conversation we've had in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day.